Good morning. We're approaching the end of our first week of Advent, and this week we've been focused on the message of joy in the Christmas story. And we're going to continue to look at joy today. We're going to look at a passage in Luke chapter 1. If you've got your Bibles, you might want to pause this and just read from Luke 1, verse 5 through to 25. I'm not going to read it all now, but we're going to look at that passage just briefly. I'm going to read a couple of verses just from verse 11. This is a passage about Zechariah and Elizabeth, and this is where Zechariah is in the temple fulfilling his duties. And it says this: Then an angel of the Lord appeared to him, standing at the right side of the altar of incense. When Zechariah saw him, he was startled and gripped with fear. But the angel said to him, "Do not be afraid, Zechariah. Your prayer has been heard. Your wife Elizabeth will bear you a son, and you are to give him the name John. He will be a joy and delight to you, and many will rejoice because of his birth." This is a story about a couple who are getting on in life, getting on in years, and they have no children. Elizabeth is barren. We know from things that we've looked at before that for a woman to be considered barren and unable to have children, there was a real stigma around it. Later on in the passage, Elizabeth calls it her disgrace. And so for her and for her husband, this would have been a real difficult part of their life. It was considered to be a curse, usually, for a sin in their life, for the reason that people couldn't have children. And so for them, they would carry around this stigma. They'd probably felt a bit outcast. For Zechariah, he didn't have that son or that child to carry on his family name and to be the heir. He'd looked around at his friends and seen them with all their children. And Elizabeth would have had that longing and that emptiness of not having that child. And it would have been something that they had carried around for a long time. We know that they prayed about it. It says there that their prayer, when the angel appeared, he said, "Your prayer has been heard." And so this is something that had been really troubling them and had been on their hearts. It would have caused them hurt. It would have caused them pain. It would have been something they really struggled with. And in the midst of it all, in the midst of all of that hurt and that pain, God shows up, doesn't he? He sends an angel, and the angel says, "Do not be afraid. Your prayer has been heard." And God tells Zechariah and Elizabeth that he is going to bless them with that son that they've always wanted, that child. And he promises them joy, and he promises them that the child would be a joy and a delight to them. In the midst of all that pain and the longing and the emptiness, God brings that joy. And this is what he did at Christmas as well, isn't it? This is kind of like a prelude to the Christmas story. In the midst of all of the hurt and the pain and the emptiness of our world, he shows up in his son Jesus. And in the same way that John brought that joy and that delight to that couple, Jesus brings that joy and that delight to the whole world. And that's one thing that we can certainly bring out of this story, I think. But I think also is the individuality of it as well. God worked in their lives individually. He listened to their prayer, and they'd prayed about this for many, many years. And there might be people that you know that are really struggling at the moment. People that are in a place, maybe a dark place at the moment, that have been struggling with something for a long time. It might be you. You might be the person that is really hurting, that has a sense of emptiness, that has something that you've been praying to God to do in your life, and it just feels that he isn't listening. For them, it probably felt like God wasn't listening quite often. But as the angel said, God has heard your prayer, and he has heard your prayer too. And whatever you're feeling, whatever emptiness, whatever dark place you might be in, whatever pain you may be experiencing, God is hearing your prayer. And in the same way he brought joy to that couple, he can bring joy to you. And I just pray that this Christmas time you'll hold on to that message. You'll keep your eyes fixed on God. You'll keep your eyes fixed on Jesus. And that this Christmas he will bring you joy. Have a good day.